Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Rabbi Stephen, Rabbi Shmuel ben Yehoshua. Yes, once again, Rush be in the house. Hope you had a great Hanukkah, and hope you're having, or will have, or had a great New Year for the secular New Year. You know, in retrospect to Hanukkah, Hanukkah is a very interesting holiday. I mean, think about it. It's not a major holiday. It's not even in the Torah. It happened after the Torah. It's got maybe a couple of lines in the whole Talmud, which the Art Scroll version is 72 volumes. One mention, one reference, and that's it. And yet, for the 8 days of Hanukkah, we had a full Hallel. And as a lot of you know, Hallel is a special series of psalms that are done during festivals, during the new moon, and during the new month. We leave out a couple of psalms because it wasn't a full-on offering, because that's what Hallel is meant to do. A lot of these prayers are in place of the sacrifices that we did. So with the Hallel, it's done on Passover, it's done on Sukkot, not done interestingly enough, on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but it is done again on the other new months. So we do a full Hallel, and we also do a Torah reading. And the Torah reading are it's from Numbers, and it's the dedication that the tribes, each tribe offered something for the Mishkan, when the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was being built. And it's a reference, since Hanukkah is the word Hanukkah even means dedication. It's a rededication of the Second Temple after the Maccabees put it back together, after the Seleucids had basically desecrated it. So that's the Torah portions that they use. So for a minor holiday, there's a lot going on, interestingly enough. So anyway, we now return back to the Torah, and we're continuing our flow of the beginnings of Judaism. So as we remember, Joseph had been traded off into Egypt. He was managing a household. He was set up. He was in jail for 11 years. He interpreted Pharaoh's dreams correctly. They are now in the second year of the famine. The brothers have been back and forth. And now this word's portion, Vayigosh, and he approached. And it was Judah approaching Zapaneth-Panea, who, unbeknownst to him and the other brothers, was Joseph, older, who had matured from a young kid to a man with a beard, different clothing, speaking Egyptian, in charge of all the food in Egypt, and was about to take Benjamin, Jacob's now favorite son, having felt that he lost Joseph forever, and enslave him for stealing. He set him up, put his goblet in there, and he was going to use that. He set him up. He was going to imprison him. Joseph wanted to see if the brothers felt the same resentment toward Benjamin as they had to him. He also wanted to see if they felt resentment toward him still, or if they repented. And Judah approaches Joseph, Zapaneth-Panea, and offers himself, says that our father is old, it would kill him to lose his favorite son. Now think about what's going on here. Judah is one of the sons, he's the fourth oldest, and he is pleading, he is willing to put himself in slavery for the rest of his life to save his half-brother, who he knows is now his father's favorite son. Joseph is basically now convinced that the brothers have repented, that they feel bad what happened to Joseph, and that they've matured. And the interesting point is that if you look at the process of forgiveness, we've talked about this many times. For me, I personally still struggle with it, and that's why I kind of talk about it a lot. But if you look at the weekday flow of prayers in the weekday Amidah, and that's the part where we stand up, we do a silent, and Friday night we just do it silently, we don't repeat it, or any night for that matter. But during the morning and during the afternoon, there's there's an individual recitation, and then, the cantor, the chazan, or the rabbi gets up and does a repetition. And there's a flow of prayers in that. The first three and the last three are always the same. During the week, it changes from what most people know to be the Shabbat Amidah. The first is the patriarchs, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. That's the patriarchs. The next is God's might, and that's why we use Mechaye Metim, restores the dead. The Reforms say Mechaye Hakol, some of them, restores everyone. But for us, God's power is, if you can restore the dead, you can pretty much do anything. And that's the whole idea of the Messianic age when this is why we don't get, in traditional Judaism, this is why you just get buried, so you return to your body. That's what it says. And the third prayer, the third blessing, is for the name, Ha'el HaKadosh, the holy name, and that's the part during the repetition. We add that whole Kedusha for the repetition. Now, during Shabbat, there's about, Friday night, there's 3. Saturday morning, there's 4 paragraphs. That is the middle blessing, which is for Shabbat. And then there's Ritzei Adonai, which is the temple. Then there's Modi Manach, which is we thank you for the daily miracles. And then there's at the end, there's either Sim Shalom for the morning or Shalom Rav, which is the prayer for peace. So during the week, we have other prayers. So the first one is Atach Laneim Landan Da'at, you give us knowledge. And then the next prayer, Hashiva Shavteinu B'Rosh Hashanah, return us to your Torah. And then the next one is Salach li, forgive me for I've sinned, pardon me for I've erred. And the next one is help me, Re'eh na v'anenu revenu, help me see the redemption. Okay, so we've got, in order to be forgiven, here's the process in Judaism. You have to first know what you did. You have to repent what you did. You have to ask for forgiveness. Then you have to return to the Torah. You have to feel bad about what you did and want to make up for it. And then finally, there's the redemption. And that's the process that went on with Joseph's brothers. They felt bad. They come there. They're now humbled. And guess what? Joseph's prophecy, his dreams of the whole family bowing down to him, here it is. It's right out there. Joseph was a prophet of sorts. So he can contain himself no longer. He sends all the other Egyptians out of the room because he's high and mighty, and he doesn't want to see them. He doesn't want them to see what he's feeling, which is he's having this intense emotions. He's going to well up with tears, and he just feels like it wouldn't be befitting of his stature, for the Egyptians to see him in this moment of, vulnerability. Now, we could talk about vulnerability. That's another topic. But you got to remember, this is a political situation, okay? Joseph is second only to Pharaoh in charge of all Egypt, and he has to have that awe about him, that reverence. He has to command respect. So he can't let the Egyptians see that he's about to break down in front of his brothers. And he reveals himself and he says, look, and one of the things he says, and this is real important, and this is a lesson to the rest of us. Joseph saw the big picture. He says to them, don't worry about having sold me into slavery. It was all part of God's plan. Because if you hadn't done that, I would not now be here able to bring you in, save you from famine, and save the whole world from famine. So in a way, you did a good thing. And this is a lesson for a lot of us. A lot of us face our trials and tribulations in life, right? And we say, why? Sometimes you just need to go through the bad to get to the good. If you want to be healthy, you got to exercise, and exercise is not always pleasant. You're sweating the body. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. You're pushing yourself. Your muscles ache until you find the right rhythm. But the benefit is that you're going to live longer. You're going to feel healthier. See, so you go through a bad thing to do a good thing, to get a good thing. Sometimes that's what happens. In fact, the sages have said, when people say, why do bad things happen to good people? They give the example of a slave. Now, in Judaism, the concept of a slave is a little bit different, a lot different actually, than a lot of other cultures, and that there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of guidelines. If a master strikes the slave and knocks out a tooth or maims their arm or something, that slave goes free. They win their freedom, even though the 7 years isn't up, or the 6 years, whatever they have left in their indentured service time, right? So a bad thing happened, they lost a tooth, in our example, but the good thing is that now they've won their freedom early. Now they can go on and get on with their lives, see? So that's kind of how it happens, and that's the way Joseph saw it. He had that wisdom. So he brings Jacob over, and it gives an accounting of all the people that came over, and it was like 70 souls came down, and the idea of coming down is because they're coming from Canaan, which is the Canaan, which was the name of the Holy Land then, and they're They're coming into a pagan land. All right. So Joseph is, rather than integrate them through Egyptian society and maybe get them contaminated. And by the way, the Egyptians thought shepherding was just kind of the lowest of the low. He's going to set them aside in Goshen, which some people say is really where Ramses, the city of Ramses, is now. And it was great pastures, and also Pharaoh, he's like, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Let's get some of your brothers, if they're that great shepherds, let's have them manage some of my flock. So the brood comes over, and Jacob is feeling good. He gets reunited with his son, and the whole family's together, and they're prospering. And it's kind of a happy ending to a story. So we are about to end Genesis. That's going to come with the next few portions. So then we'll start with Exodus, with Moses. One last thing, we are going to do a Friday night service. This will be Friday, January 10th. We asked Friday or Saturday. People prefer Friday. We're going to do Friday, and that's fine. So we will see you Friday night, January 10th, 6 o'clock for potluck, 7 o'clock, Jewish time. You know what that means. 7 o'clock Jewish time for the service, and then we'll hang out a little bit and talk, okay? Thanks for listening. Shabbat Shalom, and Happy New Year.